Most guys in the gym look the same after 6 to 12 months. They're training hard, showing up consistently, but the body barely changes. And it's not because they're lazy, it's because they're following random workouts, body part splits, or just copying what everyone else is doing without really knowing why. So here's what almost nobody tells you. Your body doesn't care about chest day or an arm day. It only understands movement patterns. And every effective workout in the world comes down to just 7 of them. And master these 7 and you can build a leaner, stronger, more athletic physique in less time than what you're doing right now. But here's the problem. Most people either miss a few of them entirely or have no idea how to actually combine them into a workout that does anything useful. So in this video, I'm not just showing you the 7 exercises, I'm giving you the complete plan you can follow in the gym this week. I've been a personal trainer for 11 years, delivered over 8,500 sessions, and trained myself for over 14 years. And to explain why 7 is genuinely all you need, I need to tell you about the 8 years I spent training the wrong way, because it'll make the rest of this video make a lot more sense. So from the age of 16, I followed your classic bro split. So chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, arms on Wednesday, the whole lot. Dedicated muscle groups per day, complicated split 6 days a week because that's what I thought serious training looked like. And I built some muscle over those years, yeah, but never looked particularly athletic. It was more just someone who trained specific muscles rather than someone whose body actually worked as a unit, especially with all the cutting and bulking cycles I went on back then. So here's the shift that changed everything. Your body doesn't care about the chest day or arm day. It only understands movement patterns. And once you start training movement patterns, rather than muscles, you get stronger faster, your body works as one unit, and you stop wasting hours on exercises that don't actually move the needle on how you look or perform. And there are only 7 movement patterns your body actually uses. Everything else is just a variation of one of these. And the 3-session structure I'm about to show you is built into the Softer Lean program in the description, completely free, all full body, progressive overload built in. So here's what they are: squat, hinge, lunge, push, pull, carry, rotation. That's the complete list. Every exercise you've ever done in the gym fits into one of these 7. And if you're training all 7 consistently, you're covering everything your body needs anyway. So here's a quick breakdown of each. A squat is any movement where you're bending at the hip and knee under load. Goblet squat, barbell squat, front squat, pretty much the foundation of lower body strength. And then we've got the hinge, so bending at the hip with minimal knee bend. RDLs are pretty much the main one for this one. And this is the most undertrained pattern for most people, and the one that builds the posterior chain, otherwise known as the back of the body. So glutes, hamstrings, lower back, which is what makes a physique look genuinely athletic rather than just gym trained. Like, I barely touched this for the first 3 or 4 years of training, and it's the thing I'd fix first if I could go back. Because at the end of the day, you can't see your back or your hamstrings, so what's the point in training it? Or at least that's what I thought anyway. And then we've got a lunge, single leg work, so split squat, walking lunges, Bulgarian split squats. Most guys skip this entirely because they're bloody hard for one, and the ones who don't look noticeably more balanced and athletic. Someone asked me a few weeks ago, if you could only do one leg exercise for the rest of your life, what would it be? And call me an absolute psychopath, but I'd say split squats because you get the most bang for your buck. And then moving on to a push. So this is any pressing movement: bench press, overhead press, dumbbell press, horizontal and vertical, and you need both. The next one is a pull movement. So any rowing, any pulling movement. So pull-ups, cable rows, dumbbell rows. A lot of people underdo this relative to pushing, and it shows in the posture and the back development. And the next one is a carry. So picking something up and moving it under load. I get this done every week when I walk to bloody Tesco and do the weekly shop, because we refuse to drive. But actual exercises you do in the gym are farmer's carries, suitcase carries. Almost nobody does this, and it's one of the most underrated things you can add for how your body actually looks and performs. And then we've got rotation, so any movement involving twisting through the core. Pal-off press, cable wood chops, which are one of my favourites, which I'm doing in my current program, which I'm also translating to jiu-jitsu as well, and I found has helped massively. Even the rotational movement in many compound lifts as well. So this is what gives the midsection that dense worked look, rather than just doing endless crunches. And here's where most people go completely wrong, because it's not just about knowing the 7 patterns, it's about which one gets skipped. Almost every lad I've coached who's had a training history came in with the same gaps. Squatting, pressing, doing some pulling, not out on the town, I mean in the gym, but The hinge was either completely not happening, absent, or done badly. Single leg work was skipped entirely, carries were never touched, and the rotational work was replaced with an ab exercise that didn't really do much, like a plank. And the result of that was a physique that looked decent from the front in the mirror, but didn't look particularly athletic from any other angle. So a good example of this is my client over here, Paddy. He trained for years, showed up consistently, but his program had no hinge work and his pulling movements were always done too fast without the right end position. And he actually was someone who had very good back genetics as well. And as you can see on the after photo, he had one of the best back development I've ever seen from someone in such a short period of time. And it was because the right patterns weren't being trained properly. Once the hinge and the pulling movements were fixed, he was doing the same amount of sessions a week, by the way, same time spent in the gym, but the physique started looking completely different within a few months. And it wasn't because he added anything else, it was because he stopped skipping the patterns that were missing completely. And here's the part most videos leave out entirely, because knowing the 7 movements is one thing, but knowing exactly how to organize them into a week is what makes it actually usable. So this is the 3-session structure I use. 3 sessions a week, full body, alternating between 2 session types. So session A could be a squat, your primary low body movement, and then a horizontal push like bench press or dumbbell press, then a pull vertical, pull-ups or lat pull-downs, and then I might add on a carry, for example. This could be a farmer's carry, a suitcase carry just to finish the session. And then session B is more of a hinge, so Romanian deadlift or a conventional deadlift, push vertical, so overhead press, a pull horizontal, so think a cable row or dumbbell rows with a proper squeeze at the end. And then we've got a lunge, so split squats, walk and lunges, and then a rotational movement. So for example, as I said, I'm doing wood chops. And then I'd alternate between session A and session B across the week. Monday A, Wednesday B, Friday A. Then flip it the following week. B, A, B. Every pattern gets hit at least twice across a 2-week block, and the hinge and the single leg work never gets skipped. The whole thing fits inside an hour as well. That's it. And that's the full plan. And don't get me wrong, I do deviate from this a little bit from time to time, depending on my goals at that time, and I will do the same with clients, again, depending on their goals and how long they have to spend in the gym. And the Soft and Lean program in the description has this structure mapped out completely week by week with progressive overload built in, so you actually build muscle and lose fat. And here's to actually make it work, because the movements and the structure are only half of it really. 3 to 4 working sets per exercise, 6 to 12 reps per set, and here's the bit most people either completely ignore or do inconsistently. Progressive overload is the part most people skip. So the weight you track, or at least what you should be tracking in your app or in a logbook, is going up over time rather than staying comfortable. And not every session, not by a massive amount, just consistently trending upward across weeks and months. Without it, you're going through the motions and you're wondering why nothing is changing. So Cash, my client here, trained consistently for years before he came to me. He was showing up, putting in the work, 3 sessions a week, all the right habits. But the weight he was adding in the sessions hadn't moved in months. Same dumbbells, same reps, same sets, same results. And once we actually applied progressive overload properly and tracked the numbers he was doing, his body completely changed and it actually started responding in a way it hadn't done in years. And his goal was to get in the best shape of his life before he turned 40 as someone who was busy with his job, with his kids, etc. And as you can see from the photos, he was in the best shape of his life at 39 within just 12 weeks of making that one change. And if you don't have access to a full gym, the same 7 patterns still apply. The equipment just changes. And I've used this exact setup when I'm traveling, for example, and can't get to a gym. It's the same 7 patterns, same structure, completely different kit. So, for example, for the squat, it could be a goblet squat with a single dumbbell or a kettlebell. Hinge, dumbbell RDL or a dumbbell deadlift. And then for a lunge, I do a split squat with dumbbells or just body weight. If you have no dumbbells, just do more reps. Then for the push, I do push-ups for horizontal, and then a dumbbell press for a vertical push. And then for the pull, I'll do dumbbell rows or resistance band rows or resistance band pull-aparts, which are great. For a carry, I'll do heavy dumbbell holds, walk across the room back and forth if you can't do that. And then for a rotation, I'll do some type of plank variation. Resistance band pull-off presses. It's the same system, same structure, which will get the same results just without needing a full commercial gym to make it work. You do not need more exercises. You need a better system. And you just need to hit these 7 movement patterns just 3 times a week with progressive overload tracked every session. Train all 7 consistently, and the physique most people spend years chasing starts actually happening way faster than you'll expect. And it's not because the approach is complicated, but because it's complete. But with all that being said, here's what most people then discover once the training is sorted. The training is only half the structure. There's one specific thing on the nutrition side that determines how much of the work you're putting in actually shows up visually. And most people are getting it completely wrong without realizing it. And I've got a video that covers exactly what it is somewhere over here, so watch that next.